Hello.
Hello, yeah. Can you
How's it
can you hear
going?
me? Yeah, it's
I
good. Yeah, how's it
can,
going?
yes.
Yeah.
Good. Just get this. How do can we, there we go. Hi. How's
Yeah,
it
hi,
going?
yeah. Yeah.
How's your
Um,
day?
yeah, I just woke up literally
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I literally just woke up just for the live.
That's awesome. What time is it for you?
It's 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
And where are you again?
Singapore. Yeah,
Singapore.
yeah.
Cool. I'm
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
Canada.
yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, it's a big time zone difference.
Yeah.
Like I think it's 15 hours, I believe.
Something like
Uh,
that. Yeah. It's 7 p.m.
yeah.
here on Saturday,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
day behind you.
Yeah. But thank
Yeah.
you for making this happen. I'm really happy to have you.
Thank
Um,
you for having me.
oh yeah, it's my pleasure, honestly. Yeah, so for those of you who are watching this live right now, this will be uploaded onto YouTube. So Hillary and I are just going to have a discussion about different manifestation topics, and yeah, so yeah, let's take it away. Yeah.
Totally. You want to start with a specific person?
Yeah, I thought we can just like start with like an intro first. Like,
Sure.
okay, yeah, because I've been watching your YouTube. Like, I think you started last year, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did that came to be? Like, did you primarily start on YouTube or?
Yeah, I that was first my first I
Right,
started on YouTube. Yeah, it was definitely like a huge fear of mine, but I have a best friend who that's her main like source of income. So I was really inspired by her, and I've
right,
always been into manifestation, but just recently had learned about law of assumption. And law of assumption sort of made everything click for me. Whereas like at the beginning, law of attraction was sort of scattered and I didn't really understand how to really
right,
put it into practice. Whereas law of assumption just clicked for me where it's like assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, assume that it's already happened and your outer world will reflect that. And all of Neville Goddard's principles really just
right.
made that click. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, YouTube was
yeah.
where I started, but yeah.
Right. Because for a lot of people, it's either like Instagram or Facebook these days, more so than YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting, like to see like you starting out on YouTube, especially as recent as last year.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like were you like did you start the channel with the intention of being a coach, or like how did that came to be?
um Yes, I did start the channel with the intention of being a coach. Yeah, yeah.
Right,
I
right,
just
right,
wanted to get my footing with the whole being seen thing. Like that was a huge hurdle for me to like even just
right,
have the camera. And it's so weird to talk to a camera when nobody's there. And just the whole like teaching yourself how to edit and all of the stuff that goes along with that. But yeah, it, yeah,
right.
yeah. I like the YouTube community. It's a lot of work, but it's
It
super
is.
nice and super fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like how did you you learned about manifesting, like how did you came to be exposed to that? Because you said you were kind of like known you kind of knew manifesting from like an early age. So how did that came to be? Yeah.
Yeah, my grandma actually, she taught me, she pointed the secret movie and What
Right.
the Bleep Do We Know? Do you know that movie? What the Bleep Do We
I've
Know?
heard of it. I've heard of it, but
Yeah.
I've not watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both kind of like dated at this point and they're kind of
Yes.
cheesy, but the principle, is the same quantum physics and creating your reality. And that was sort of
Right.
where it started with law of attraction and the secret. My grandma told me about that. And then
Right,
that
right,
always
right.
sort of felt true to me. The thoughts create your reality felt true. But I didn't really know how to like harness the power of it where like, I feel like now I think the missing element is the feeling. And I think there's like, I don't know, we can get into it, but there's a lot of controversy around, you know, is it just the affirming and just the words, or like, do you need to get into a certain state? And I've coming more and more to realize that like the state is super important. Like
Right.
your emotions and your feelings as a vibration as well. And so like it's kind of coming full circle back to law of attraction with the vibration
Right,
talk.
right, right,
But
right.
I
Yeah.
yeah, just the feeling of like already having something or getting into the energy of what you are trying to accomplish. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think that has always been like a point of contention in the community. Like like no matter how many times you explain, like there'll always be that one or two people who will always ask you about it. So yeah, like how old were you back then when you like started like about maybe in your teens, early teens
Teens,
maybe?
probably teens. Yeah.
Right.
How about
Yeah,
you?
I think yeah. So yeah, like actually like you, unlike I started in my teens as well. So I was like I was always kind of spiritually inclined, like from an early age. But I was kind of exposed to the law of attraction when I was like 16 by my mom. So
Mm,
literally The Secret as well, the movie.
yeah.
So I was just like passing by my living room and my mom was watching that. And I think it was John Ashraf's quote where he was talking about how he manifested his house.
Yeah,
He
with the
was like,
vision
I
board.
didn't, yeah, the vision board and everything, yeah. So I was like, wait, what are you listening to? This sounds so cool. Like because he was saying I didn't manifest a similar house, I got the exact house.
Yeah.
That caught my eye because I was
Yeah.
always into like wealth and like manifesting a mansion. Like I always wanted a mansion and things like that as a teenager. So I was like, okay, that caught my eyes. Okay, what are you watching? Talk to
Yeah.
me. Yeah. So and it was like and I would be very honest with you because it was like failure after that for like 3 years of trying to apply the law, but not quite sticking it.
Hmm.
And then, I kind of just took a break from like the manifesting because I was in the military for a bit, and so I didn't have a lot of time to like watch videos and stuff. And that kind of gave me the time to internalize it on my own and kind of just find my own truth of the matter. And then after a while later, maybe a year later, I think I found Neville when it came to the specific person journey. And then, yeah, one thing led to another. And throughout this time, I was having my manifestation page actually. So back then, I wasn't a coach. I was just like posting stuff.
Okay.
So that's why I asked you, like, did you start with the intention of
Hmm.
being a coach? Because like it really varies, and I wanted to see like how different journeys kind of started that way. So yeah, so that was pretty much my journey. Yeah,
That's awesome. Cool.
yeah,
Yeah, with to the point of like starting it with the intention, I had been coaching people in like Facebook groups before, like not my Facebook
right,
group, but other people's
right,
groups, like
right.
commenting and like helping people out. And I felt like I really understood it and I could help people. And so I was already doing it for a while, and then I was like, I just need to start my own channel doing this. So yeah. Hmm.
Right. Yeah, because like I think once you kind of gain a bit of momentum and you feel like, okay, you know what, I could do this,
Yeah,
and then you kind of have that confidence, like it just kind of flows from there.
totally.
For me, it was like one of a business coach reached out to me asking if I would be down to trying this as a coach, and I was like, oh, me really? And that was the kind of impression I had at first. But I was like, as I thought about it, I was like, I'm already doing it. So, why
Totally.
not, step into the world and,
Oh, like a
definitely.
client, a
Yeah,
coach.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
No,
okay,
it was,
cool.
no, it was a business coach, like who coaches like other coaches.
Yeah.
She reached out to me and she was like, hey, you should probably do this. Like
Mm,
your page seems to have a lot of like potential in that area. So maybe
awesome.
you should, give it a go because I think she was just following my content and yeah, that's how it kind of just came to be basically. Yeah.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah. And I just started YouTube as well, last year, December. So yeah, I just like it's completely different worlds for
Yeah.
sure. Like Instagram and YouTube. Yeah.
A lot of work that goes on behind the scenes.
Right. I mean, for me, I
Yeah.
just kind of, I think you put a lot of effort into your videos, like, editing and music and stuff. I just
Mm.
like, record and just like, boom, post at a moment. um,
Yeah,
Simply
it's a
because
lot
I'm
of work.
like, like I didn't want to like pressure myself with like too many things at the same time. So I was like, okay, you know what, like just do as much as you can right now, and then figure things out as you go on. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the process of it. Like I love the creative process of like all that, the editing and stuff. But anyway, yeah,
Oh, definitely.
awesome.
Yeah. I think it's like it's really bittersweet as you watch like your production quality like just get way better as time goes
Yeah.
by,
Hmm.
and it's really bittersweet for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think when you look at like the videos like from the past and like and then you look at the most recent videos, like you would be able to see that progress and that growth is very satisfactory. Yeah.
Yeah, it's rewarding. Yeah,
Yeah,
especially
it
yeah.
definitely is. Yeah.
When I think about my own, it's like I was so nervous and awkward at the beginning to even be in front of the camera, and then yeah, just like the camera shyness just goes away and just like just
Yeah.
talking
It
to like
definitely does.
one on
Yeah.
one somebody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think one thing that I really liked about your videos was how genuine you are.
Thank
Especially
you.
like I think I messaged you as well regarding the ladder video. It was really very genuine, and because um, the reason why I say that is because like a lot of people in the community have this misconception that like people or especially coaches tend to manifest quickly,
You
and
froze.
it just takes
Hang
them
on,
a
you
while.
froze for a second. Can you say you said
Yeah.
coaches? People
Yeah,
and
so I
maybe
was saying,
coaches, let's say.
coaches like people have this impression that coaches, manifest things instantly or very
Hmm.
quickly,
Yeah.
and that they tend to beat themselves up, thinking that they are going wrong somewhere. And I felt like your ladder experiment kind of showed like that's not necessarily the case. Like it may
Yeah.
take a while in some cases too,
Yeah.
and that's fine. Like and I really like how you vlog the entire process. And yeah, so I really like that entire video. I really really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that misconception of coaches being perfect or like is just manifesting instantly. It's like no, like I also have to coach myself, and it is really challenging sometimes.
Right, right,
Like
right.
we have beliefs, we're humans too, where it's just like you'll still have doubts and fears and
Oh,
stuff like that.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think where like we may differ is how we handle those things. It's
Right.
not that we are immune to it per se. It's more like, okay, how do we handle it? Because
Yeah.
I think we are at a certain point where we are, capable of like, okay, handling it better, but we still have to go through those things. Like we are not immune to it in any way, which I feel
Right.
like people do forget sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that video was
So
fun to make, but
yeah. So yeah, do you want to talk about specific person? Do you want
sure.
to go into that? Yeah.
I want to hear
So
from you. Like, what's your specific person journey?
right. So it was like it was really interesting because like for me, I've never really spoken about this. I think this is the first time I actually would be opening up to the public. Because simply because
Really?
like
Oh,
yes,
I'm honored. Please share that.
yeah. So because my own journey, I didn't really share about it because I don't know who would be watching it. Just putting it out there and stuff like that. But at this point, I kind of know who would watch it and who wouldn't, especially in my family. So simply because they're not aware of like what I've been through. So yeah, I think no, it was very straightforward. It was a long distance, and for me, it was I actually wrote a set of qualities back in like 2018, I believe, and I found those exact qualities in a person, maybe say like 2 years later,
Yeah.
and it was like this person checked all the boxes, which was really like I'm like, oh wow, and I knew that wasn't a coincidence, and we had a great time. And of course, like as things go on, like your insecurities, your doubts, your fears kick in, and that kind of manifested. Yeah.
Yeah.
And eventually, things kind of lead. And that at that time I was only aware of the law of attraction. Like I have heard of Neville from like say Aaron Doughty before, but
Mm.
I've never really like bothered to look into him. So yeah, and as I was when things got sour, and SP decided to call it quits, and that's when I kind of started to look into Neville's videos. And the first video I saw of Neville was the whole imagining creates reality. I believe it's like a about 20 minutes long video.
Just him
So
talking.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was about the girl going to Samoa and a few other success stories there in that imagining creates reality, basically. So
Yeah.
I kind of heard that video and I literally had tears in my eyes because I was like, okay, I finally found something that I really resonate with.
Mm.
And then I really applied it. I put it into practice, because and it wasn't perfect in the sense that I was still reacting to the 3D. I was still reacting in my mind. I wasn't, fully letting go of the old story. And
Yeah.
that was definitely a process. Like I think the first time I manifested my SPA, like it was like it took 6 months or something,
Mm.
and it was a journey for sure. And in that came growth, and that
Yeah.
was how I knew, okay, if I and when that person finally did text me back, it was like, oh wow, like this works. Like
Mm.
manifesting works, like generally based on other things that you have manifested in life, but when that specifically happens, you're like, okay, this really works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I think a lot of people have this impression that oh, manifesting can work for small things here and there, but when comes to like the big items, so to speak, like it may not work. And for me, that was that moment where I knew it worked for everything, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, that was like pretty much my journey. And then yeah, it was like trial and error from there. And I'm no longer together with this person simply because we decided to like mutually separate at one
Yeah.
point. And I think that has to also do with like your self concept at one point, because you are like your self concept also changes completely.
Yeah.
And that was a journey as well, like the self concept journey of like, okay, how you perceive yourself prior to this whole journey, and like how you see yourself like after, like you are fully into like manifesting, and how you see yourself and your abilities. That really changed for sure. Like the old man really, became extinct, and
Yeah.
yeah, so that was my journey. Yeah.
One thing that just came up for me when you said that was that like the idea of like I feel I don't know if this is like a self-imposed thing, but like the thought of like the SP journey and manifesting your specific person and how there I feel like maybe there's a pressure to like that you may have failed if you change your mind, or you may have failed if like the relationship doesn't last forever or something. Like there's some sort of belief there where it's like, oh, it must be this person or I'm a failure or something like that. Like it's so not true at all. Like you
Right,
can
right. I agree.
date, you
Yeah.
can manifest whoever you want. Like if you change your mind, you change your preferences. It's not, you're not stuck to this one person. You can manifest somebody else. Like I don't know. That just I feel like there's a little bit of that going on
Oh,
in
yeah, yeah,
dating.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, because people are so hung up on just one person. Like, yeah, that you're definitely right there, because you're not a failure. If you change your preferences at one point in the middle of your journey,
Yeah.
as your self-concept is improving, you know what? If you're thinking, you know what, like, I think I'm good,
Yeah.
and for me, certainly, I had like, like ISP and I had like certain things where we realized like, okay, you know what, maybe this isn't ideal.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happened, it was like, it was all cool, it was nothing but love. And I think like that's the thing that people have to look out for, is like, okay, be honest with yourself. Don't just do something just to succeed. Like you can always because maybe that specific thing happened the way it did just to help you grow in a certain direction.
Yeah.
And once it serves its purpose, it just exits out of your life gracefully.
Yeah.
And just embrace it, like it's completely fine. And yeah, I think like you brought a very valid point, like, yeah, thank you for like highlighting that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said about that, how it's like it may have just this is where I think there's different layers to it, where it's like, yeah,
Right.
law of assumption is definitely a thing and it definitely exists. But there are layers to it, like what you just said, where how like that your journey, like in particular, where it's like it was all love at the end. It's not like this horrible tumultuous thing, and that's the whole thing. Where it's like, how are you feeling? Like, how grounded and centered are you? Like, you may just be ready for the next phase, and it's fine. It's not like you don't need to cling to one particular thing just because like it's an ego like obsession or something. I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Because like, and it's true even with like careers, for example. Like, as kids we wanted to be something, and as we grew up, like we wanted different things. And it's fine, because at that point, that kind of pushed you in a certain direction. But
Mm.
your current career preferences, or what you desire right now, puts you in another direction. And all those things like kind of lead you somewhere. You may not know how it's going to lead you to your true purpose, so to
Yeah.
speak, but like you kind of like use those things, and just kind of, the idea, I guess, it's being in the present moment and just enjoying things as they come by,
Absolutely.
like not trying to plot the entire story, because the truth is you can't. And
Yeah.
it's, yeah, so that's how I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, like there are certainly layers. And I
Mm,
think our journey is also about learning about those layers and trying to make sense of it all, like how it
absolutely.
all comes together. Like I think we know the pieces of the puzzle, but what we may not know is how these pieces come together to form the
Hmm.
full picture necessarily. Yeah.
Yeah, big picture. Yeah, the big picture. Can't see the whole
Yeah.
thing. And yeah, it's just like not being able to see, like, for example, when following your intuition, it's like you may have a feeling to do a certain action or do like go somewhere or see something. It's like you don't know why it might not make sense, but when you do that, then it will unfold and it will make sense. So yeah, I think
Yes.
like the bigger picture idea of like the universe or source or God or whatever you want to call it, like playing into it rather than just like you and your ego like trying to like devise a plan to get something, like just
Right.
yeah, relaxing and kind of like surrendering a bit as well.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I think that's the key there, is relaxing and surrendering. I think,
Mm,
yeah, you put it really perfectly. And I think with any journey, it's all about relaxing and surrendering at the end of the
totally.
day, and just kind of letting it flow from there. And yeah, I'm curious about your SP journey. How did yours start?
So what you said resonated, where it was like it was a journey where it was like really difficult at the beginning, like, and it's the relationship I'm in currently, and it's unfolded so much nicer than it was at the beginning. It was just a rocky beginning where, but okay, before that, I did write a list of qualities, same.
Right.
Um, and I don't think it was more than a couple months, like maybe 2 months. So I wrote like a list of, qualities and like physical and, personality and all this stuff in a list. And then, and I wasn't even going to go on dating apps anymore. I was like, I'm done with dating apps.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
then I got an ad for like a new dating app called Hinge. And I was like, okay, well, we'll just try it. Like, I wasn't, no expectations. Whereas before it would have been, it was sort of like controlling and like, so anyway, so,
Right.
um, yeah, he was the first person that popped up on the app.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, so he met pretty much everything except like the eye color. Who cares about that? Um, and but yeah, so it was sort of like the piece I talk about this on my channel where I kind of like the missing piece of like the feeling, because we want things because we think that we will feel better in the having of it, right? Like we want to get these external things to feel better
To
inside.
feel
And
better.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
this is like the ever like the never ending journey of like reaching for more, reaching for more. And there's nothing wrong with reaching for more, but it's like you have to realize that fulfillment comes from within and not from these outer things. So with dating for myself, it was like I was always like, where's my person? Like it was like a frantic like looking, and then it was sort of like it was at that point it was a little bit less of that. It was more like relaxed, like whatever happens happens. But I didn't really tap into the fulfillment of a fulfilling relationship, like the feelings of I don't know, just like joy and love and like calmness in a relationship. Slash it also brings up all of your shit where like the person, your SP, is a mirror for whatever
Right.
unresolved things you have going on inside. And so that happened, and it was like reactions and going around in circles in my mind and like arguing in my mind, like inner conversations, but like negative,
I
and
unfavorably.
just
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
recreating like fights because it's in my mind. And it's like, yeah, it was a whole mess of that for a long time, like months. Um, a year actually. First year of our relationship was like that. And like not all horrible, obviously, but like not
Right.
getting
Right.
it to the point where it's like, okay, you gotta stop, going in circles in your mind and fighting with like the version of him that's in my mind. It's like you're recreating that crap. So eventually, yeah, stop doing that. So, and
Right. Right. Right.
it's like an addictive pattern to
It
like
is.
to stay in the negative and it's so much easier to fall back to that. And like I would like voice it to my friends, and I would like it would be like this whole thing where it was like, oh, like going over the fights, and it's just like recreating it all. Yeah, it's so much easier to stick to the negative and to like just be in the familiar. I don't know if you like follow Dr. Joe Dispenza, but he talks about like
Right.
that, how like you get addicted to those emotions. And yeah, that was totally the case for me. So anyway, um
Right. 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 Yeah.
yeah, the like addictive, just like negative thinking. Yeah, and so it it was rough. But it's unfolded into something really beautiful now, and it's
That's
just
nice.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, so just changing the way I feel, like feeling okay within myself, and like learning to like process my emotions in a healthy way and not react to every single little thing where it's like I'm perceiving what somebody says or what my SP would say, and like blowing it up into something that it isn't. And like just really being aware of my own patterns and my own way of
Right.
perceiving the situation, and then reframing it and choosing more helpful thoughts,
Right. Right. Right.
which results in a lovelier mirror.
Right, right, right. And
Yeah.
how do you process those kinds of emotions, like when you face something or when you experience something like unfavorable, be it because of SP or be it, just getting triggered in general, like how do you process that?
Such a good question.
Right.
There are so many different ways. I actually just tried therapy for the first time recently. And one simple tool that like my therapist gave me was um, leaving the situation. Like she talks about how like when you're in conflict, the part of the brain, it's like your brain is like this, and the part of the brain that is logical and can reason is the top part. And it like when you're triggered, it this part gets flipped and like it's just the kid brain underneath, and so
Right, right,
you're
right,
triggered and you like there's no logic and you're just like irritated and like aggravated, and you can't have a helpful or healthy conversation that way. So the tip was basically just like leave for like say I will be back in 15 minutes, not just leave and don't come back, but like I just need to like be alone for 15 minutes, just go away, like remove
right.
yourself if you're really triggered, like because anything you say or do in that moment is not going to be helpful.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
leaving, leaving the situation if it's possible, just go for a walk or go in the other room and like breathe, or like if you this is the thing with emotions, it's energy in your body that needs to be moved. So like for me, exercise, like going for a run or a walk, or going to the gym or some sort of movement to like if it's like anger, you definitely need to move that out of you.
Right, right, right,
Yeah, just there's different ways that you can process it, but that's one really good tip, to just remove yourself and release
right,
the energy and
right,
then come back
right,
to the
right.
situation when you're
Yeah.
calm.
No, I think that's a good tip, because like I think a lot of people would be very stagnant, like it just being in that same room sometimes is just not going to be
Yeah.
helpful. So yeah, I think like that's a good tip, like just move around, remove yourself from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I think like like these things would really help people who are like trying to process these things. And I think like even if you're not in the same room with the person, but I would say like removing yourself, even if like let's say you're angry in your room, for example, even removing yourself and like going somewhere else just for a while and coming back, even that would help, because
Yeah,
just
totally.
staying in that energy isn't really helpful, just being stagnant in a way. And I think like that's
Mm-hmm.
where you spoke about movement, and I feel like that really really helps as well. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's two other things that I think are really helpful with this. It's one of them, I don't know like where you stand on this, but meditation.
Right, no,
Have you heard
I
about?
completely agree with that. Yeah, I really resonate
I
with it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like it changes your perspective and it changes your life. Like I've been practicing Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations, um,
Right,
and it's just like you do that in the beginning of your day, and the emotional reactions that come up are less and less the more that you practice it. And it's not like, oh, I'm gonna do a quick fix when I'm feeling really angry, I'm gonna do a meditation. Like, no, that's not how it works. You need to have a practice in place so that you're conditioning your mind to be calm, and you know it just changes the way that you see the world. And the emotional reactions really are so much less for me when I like am
right.
calming my mind every day.
Right, right, right. I think you brought up a very important point. Well, firstly, like I think I'm actually getting into exploring Dr. Joe Dispenza, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just literally on the first chapter of like becoming super natural,
Nice.
actually.
Yeah,
So yeah, and I think like I think you brought up a very important point there, which was consistently doing something,
totally.
and it's not just being like a one-off thing. And I think like with any techniques as well, even in the manifesting side of things, like you know consistency is the key,
Mm.
more so than like because people are always jumping onto the new technique. Or I think you would have seen this in Facebook groups as well, like, or people asking like, hey, what was your affirmations that you use whenever someone
Yeah.
posts a success story and stuff. And it's more about you practicing it consistently and like maintaining a stable diet and so on. And I feel like you brought up that point, and that's really important, honestly. So yeah, yeah, and thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
Yeah, and that point where you're talking about how people are in a Facebook group saying like, "Oh, what did you use?" Like it's that lack state or lack mentality where you're constantly searching for the quick fix when the answers are within yourself. I mean, yeah, it's just like consistency and shifting the way that you feel. It's not something on the outside that you're just gonna like put a band-aid on and like fix all your problems. Like
Right, right,
just
right,
because
right,
an
right.
affirmation worked for somebody, like that might not be the way that you speak or the way that you word it, or you might have like a belief that feels really conflicting to say that, like maybe that brings up a lot of resistance in you to say it that way. Like you need to find what works for yourself and then stick to it, and then keep going, and don't just break off when you don't see results right away. Like, yeah, you need to push through no matter what.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
I always say this to my clients. It's like, just because you start eating healthy like for 1 week and you
Mm-hmm.
don't see the changes in your body, doesn't mean you're going to stop eating healthy. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and that's not how it works. And like what you said, it's definitely not a quick fix. It's certainly, it's all about going within and, and like realizing that. And you brought up the whole feeling again. So yeah, would you want to go into that? Like feeling and the point of contention in the community about that. Yeah.
Oh, how we're talking about like
Yeah, feeling
like
it
the
real or
words.
is it emotions? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
just
yeah.
like the word, just like affirming something and just saying something to yourself over and over again, like monotonously. Like to me, that I mean, I believe in affirmations, and I feel like the more that you say something, you will start to believe it and feel it. But you need to have the intention to feel it real, because if you're just saying something like, "Oh, I'm gonna use it," like I literally like I know people to do this, where it's like you have a phone and you're like it's like a counter, and you're like doing a clicker and you're counting how many times you're saying it. Like I need to say this 2,000 times a day so that this can happen. And it's like a frantic energy where it's like I have to do it 2,000 times every single day, otherwise it's not going to work. And it's
Right,
like
right, right.
it's not the technique that is making it unfold for you. It's the feeling from within. So it's like it's a holistic approach with like the way that you feel along with what you're saying. Like, do you feel what you're saying to be true? And it's okay if you don't right away, but you need to like have that as your intention, because
Right,
just saying
right,
something
right.
monotonously is pointless in my opinion.
Right, right. And I actually used to do that at one point. Like in the
Mm,
beginning of my SP journey, like I remember like I used to just, rampage and over again. And I think like but what made the difference in my journey was at one point I started to believe it.
right.
So yeah, and I think that's the point that we should aim for. Like I didn't even know what to aim for at that point, to be fair. So like repetition really helped for me. But I think like with knowing conscious manifesting as it is right now, like I would say like, certainly aim for that, like aim to feel it real in your mind. And then,
Totally.
just go and, do your thing and, repeat it, whenever you can as well. But with the intention to, assume it real at one point.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
What do you think about, Joseph Ally?
Joseph Alla, yeah, I used to actually watch a lot of his content. I don't have the time these days,
Yeah,
unfortunately, like to watch a lot of videos.
that's
But
fair.
yeah, I used to really, watch his work. Yeah, but I've never really checked out his recent stuff. Yeah.
My boyfriend is commenting on it. It's like
Oh,
thinking
that's
about like
him. Oh,
yeah. Anyway, so something that Joseph Ally talks about is like I've heard him say like you don't need to have any emotion or feel anything whatsoever.
right.
And I don't agree. I don't agree. Like I feel like his he talks about like visualization and like you just see it over and over again, just keep on seeing it. But I think like you can manifest that way, but I think the goal of like having a certain feeling at the end of it, it's like you may manifest something, but it's gonna be messed up or something. Like it won't feel how you think it's gonna feel. Like I think you need to practice like feeling good and the feeling that you think that you will have when you get it in order for it to be like a holistic manifestation. What do you think?
Right, 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 right. I think that's where a lot of people kind of slightly miss the mark at times. I think you brought that up, and because like what you said, like unless you feel it real and like you kind of aim for that, like sometimes your manifestations may happen, but it may not bring the intended result.
Yeah,
That's why I always like to ask people, like, okay, if this were to be true, how would you feel within? Like
exactly.
use that as a guiding compass, like as well, because that is important too, because at the end of the day it's not just about manifesting what you desire, it's about how it makes you feel as well.
Yeah,
Like you have completely missed the mark in my opinion if you have manifested the thing but you don't feel that relief or joy,
yeah,
and you just kind of feel like meh, I don't
yeah.
know, and yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I like the like when you just it's a holistic approach, like not just saying words and not just yeah, I don't know. I think the I feel like I view the emotion or like the feeling as like the oil in a car where it just like makes everything move like um just like the grease. Like it just really just makes everything move smoother and like moves it faster. Like I feel like it's the energy of it just like moves it along.
Right, right, right. I would always say, yeah, emotions are definitely has its part to play. But the thing is, like, especially in the beginning, like when people are coming at it from like a very, like a fearful state, or when they are just absolutely crushed,
Yeah.
um, like I always tell them, okay, just take the first step. Like,
Yes.
you know, like use the first affirmation, like, just visualize for now.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually the hope is that you will get to that point where you are like feeling very hopeful and optimistic about the whole situation, and as you're doing it, even if you don't believe it 100%, like you're still going to persist in the assumption that this is already true. And like what you said, like it's like a oil in the machine where like it really makes everything smooth for you.
Hmm.
And just feeling the joy in general. And people, some of my clients will say like, I'm feeling joy, but for I don't know why. I'm like,
Yeah,
embrace it. Good. That's a good thing. Yeah, yeah.
totally. Yeah. Oh, that brought something up that I don't want to forget. Do you know Abraham Hicks?
Oh yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with
They
that. Yeah.
they talk about like how, like what you were, I think what you were alluding to when you're saying when somebody's coming from like a very fear-based state, it's you can't really jump from fear and lack immediately into joy. It's like two opposite
Absolutely.
ends of the scale, and it will feel really uncomfortable. Like you can't really just jump so far up the, Abraham Hicks talks about the emotional guidance scale. You can't jump so
Right,
far
right,
like
right,
that. It will be uncomfortable and it's impossible. So like you said, taking the first step and how like just reach for a better feeling thought. That's what Abraham Hicks talks about. Like reach for a better feeling thought. Like
right,
um,
right, right.
I'm trying to think of an example. Like if you're just like, oh, no one will ever love me. It's like, well, is that true? No. I can work on loving myself, or I'm working on loving myself. Like just what is something that feels doable for you in this moment, and then just like work towards, you know, a better feeling state.
Right, 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 right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the experiment that kind of I did to kind of prove that to myself was if I'm seeing like a red colored car, for example, if I intend to see something red colored car, for example, my mind immediately notices everything that's red.
Yeah.
So like when you want to like what you said, like when you say like no one loves me, and when you ask yourself, is this really true? And think about like people who actually love you, that's how you kind of start building that kind of positive momentum. So I
Totally.
definitely agree with you that yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
And I think like people have this misconception that manifesting is about just quickly jumping into different things, and you can do that at one point, I guess, like shifting into different states. But
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, I would take like a more graceful approach towards things, like just take it one step at a time. Like it's not
Absolutely.
about immediately jumping into things. It's more about like mastering it, and like sustainability is something that's I really place an importance on. Like yes, you can get success right now, but can you replicate it?
Yeah.
Can you keep it sustainable? Like that's the
Totally.
main thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like you might manifest it, but then you'll sabotage it or something. Yeah. To keep it
Exactly.
to keep
Yeah,
it
yeah,
going.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. And I feel like self-concept is really one of those things that really keeps it sustainable in the long run,
Yeah. It's
especially
like a
like when it
solid
comes
base.
to yeah, 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 when it comes to SP, yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. And I think like even with like things like money as well, like lottery and things like that too, if your self-concept is not there, even if you win like $1 million or two, like, eventually you will lose it all if your money mindset is not on point, if your concept with regards to money isn't, yeah, ideal basically. Yeah.
Yeah, the studies actually show that like people who win the lottery will win millions of dollars. They just like burn through it because they don't have the energy, don't feel they're worthy of it, or like they'll just like dispose of it because they have certain beliefs that cause that.
I really find that fascinating. Like
Yeah.
you really don't know how your thoughts create your reality until you see these kinds of statistics, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh wow, like this is actually, yeah, this really is true. And it's so, and I guess the fascinating thing, and really the thing that really surprised me was how it's literally in plain sight, and yet it goes completely unnoticed. Like if it wasn't for me being in this community, like I wouldn't be noticing all these things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, and I, there's like whole populations of people that don't believe don't believe it.
Right, right,
but
right, right,
but
right.
the funny thing about that is that it's working for them whether they believe it or not. So if they believe that it's
Exactly.
not true, then they'll continue to see evidence of it for like, oh, it doesn't work because it doesn't work for them because they think it doesn't work. So it's just ironic, but they'll just see more evidence of whatever you believe.
Right, right, right. And I have seen this work for people, even them without realizing that it's working for them.
Yeah,
Like, they're always like, life is always a breeze for them. They're always such a lucky, person. And
yeah,
people always think, everything always works out for them. And it does. And, like looking back at some of my schoolmates who were like really successful in general, I was like, okay, their thought process was that. And you kind of just like use people as case studies, just the people
mm-hmm.
and you just kind of plot like, okay, how has this person been doing, and what was their mindset throughout, and it kind of just makes you self, analytical about the whole situation. And I
Yeah,
think this is true for you as well. Tell me if I'm wrong here, but you will never see movies in the same way ever again after you have like learned about law of assumption.
yeah,
Like
so
every
true.
quote like strikes a chord with you,
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. Yeah, or
yeah, and
like
yeah,
just every just little reflections everywhere. Like for example, like my friend and I went paddle boarding yesterday I think,
Yeah. I
on the
saw your story.
lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's all these little tadpoles like in the lily pads. There's all these little like tadpoles, so many of them, and they're like half grown into a frog and half, so they've got like a
Oh,
big frog head and then like a little weird tail. Anyway, so there's so many of them. We were looking at them and just like paying attention to them and like trying to find them and whatever. And then I like leave the lake and then I did this course, somebody's course, and I was just listening to her class and she's talking about frogs and she's talking about like this frog analogy. It's really anyway. Actually, the frog analogy I could bring up because it's really pertinent to manifestation and persistence. I'll just tell it
yeah.
really quickly.
Yeah. Sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
So it's like there's this frog and he really wants to climb a tree, and he like all his other frog friends and animal friends are all like, "You're stupid. You could never do that. That's impossible. Frogs don't climb trees. Like, don't even try. Like, whatever." And it turns out that the frog is deaf and he can't hear them, but he thinks they're encouraging him. So he keeps it going and he climbs the tree all the way to the top. Because he thought they were all encouraging him because he was deaf. So like the analogy is like be like the deaf frog and like be blind to people who don't believe in you or
Amazing.
whatever. Like if people
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they're gonna reflect your doubts and fears ultimately, but they're gonna say things like you can't do it or whatever, and just like be deaf to them and just keep on persisting.
Right. I always like joke with my friends, like, when it comes to business and stuff, I always tell them, like, if people tell you you can't do something, or, if your partner says you can't do something, I'm like, congratulations, you're actually on the right track. Like, have you
Yeah.
seen entrepreneur stories before, dude? Like, this is how it goes. So that means you're technically on the right track. So just embrace it and just go.
Yeah. Totally.
And I think, yeah, like, I think you have to be like the deaf frog, because I think like a lot of people is sometimes may get discouraged by the number of likes or views, or
Mm,
they may get. But I was watching like a recent Gary Vee story where like he was just telling this guy to just go and do it, like just post it. When you are passionate, like everything just comes around you, and you
yeah.
just kind of attract everything to you.
Yeah.
And so you just do your thing without any expectation, just intending for it to go well, and it
Yeah.
has to go well. And use everything as to fuel your positive momentum, like what the frog did. Yeah,
Yeah. And you could also use that analogy for like your own negative thoughts. Like be deaf to your own negative thoughts too, because you're your own worst
I
enemy
agree.
in that regard, where it's like if you listen to your imposter syndrome or your negative thinking, then you can hold yourself back in that regard too.
Oh yes, I agree. Like because our mind is so used to thinking in a certain way that
Hmm.
I always say the ego mind just pushes the old story to kind of keep you there.
Yeah.
And yeah, you are your worst enemy. I absolutely agree with that. So yeah, you have to be deaf to your own thoughts. I'll never forget this analogy. Yeah,
Yeah, I liked it. It's funny.
it's really good. Yeah. I really love it. And I hope like the viewers too like kind of resonate with it as well.
Totally.
So yeah, I just wanted to like quickly get into Dr. Joe Dispenza, and also like about we wanted to talk about healing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so how what do you have to say about that? I'm just curious to know.
Um, I absolutely love Joe Dispenza's work. Just I don't know if you've watched any of those healing stories on his YouTube channel. There's like hundreds and
Yeah,
hundreds of
I've
them.
watched a
I
few. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
probably watch all of them. Like I'm obsessed. Like I just love like the whole premise of it is meditate comes back to meditation and how meditation connects you to that larger source, whatever you want to call it, universe, God, source, whatever you prefer, and just connecting to that source energy, and miracles are possible. And the thing with miracles is it's like it's not even a miracle. It's like that should be the norm, but we like we're so disconnected from who we actually are that it's like it's a miracle to us. But yeah, anyway, I'm a big believer in his work. I haven't had like any like miraculous healings for myself, but I do witness the way that it changes my state every day. Like just consistently doing it really just changes the way that I see the world. And I'm manifesting going to one of the retreats in the near future. I
Oh,
really want to go.
nice. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I just love his work, and I love like how he talks about like he merges the science with the spirituality, where it's like
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
where people are like if they think it's too woo woo or they don't believe in chakras. You know, he calls them energy centers. And
Right,
yeah,
right,
I
right.
practice the blessing of the energy centers. So he goes up all of the chakras or energy centers, and you just like feel aligned in your body, like connected to source. It's just, yeah, his work's awesome. What are
Right,
you saying?
right, right. I intend that you go for his one of his retreats
Thanks.
for sure. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm just getting into his work. Like I've been aware of his work. I think I heard about the first time I was listening to his videos. It was about his daughter spending like and her friend like spending all
This,
those money from the credit card or
yeah,
stuff
the
like
shopping
that.
spree. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The shopping spree, and I was like, oh damn, like I should try that. Um, so yeah, and I really like how like easy he makes it, and again, like what you said, like he kind of makes it. He has a very scientific approach to the whole thing, and I was really
Yeah.
attracted to that. And so I finally had the time to like just sit down and like explore some of his stuff, and I'm just getting into it. And the first story, I think one of the first stories that comes up was the putting the monk or someone like putting the hand into the stone and kind of leaving an impression on it as though it was like dough or clay, and like him like just
Oh, in the
yeah
book?
yeah 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 in the book, yeah,
Okay.
becoming
I kind of forget,
supernatural.
but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm just like, oh wow, like these are things like I kind of knew, but like again, like it kind of makes you realize like, okay, there's no such thing as impossible, because people always question, can I manifest this? Can I manifest that?
Yeah.
And this kind of like I feel like this was the next step for me to learn about the body and about healing, and I absolutely love it. Like my own healing journey, physically, I would say one thing I definitely manifested out of my life is sinus.
Mm.
I definitely manifested it out of my life. I manifested it in as a kid unknowingly because my mom used to have it, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to have it too because I'm so like my
What is
mom.
it? What is it?
Sinus, like
Like sinus
when
issue?
yeah, 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 yeah. So I was like, because in the morning, like my mom would always be like sneezing and stuff like
Mm.
that, and I found it like I thought I would be like her when I grew up, because I'm so alike her, and I guess part of me thought like that was a way to like connect with my mom. Weird enough, like
Yeah.
as weird as it sounds as a kid, and I did manifest it.
Yeah.
And I think I was in the military at one point, and one of my sergeant majors asked me like, "Why are you always holding a tissue in your hand? Like, what's the matter with you? Like, it's always like that." And I was like, "Oh, I do have this." And he's like, and I think he said a few things where he was like, I used to be this, and like I used to be a diver. I used to have a lot of sneezing issues as well. Try this XYZ, and I was like, me knowing that okay, you know what, this is reflecting back to me because I already knew law of attraction back then. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to not remove my attention away from it. I'm going to not associate myself with this anymore.
Yeah.
And I kind of just stopped using tissues from then. And it just kind of just went away. And I feel like holding it and like just having a tissue like as a precautionary measure of sorts, like always signaled it to my mind somehow. And I just kind of disassociated myself with the whole thing, and it just went off. And
You
yeah,
didn't
I've never really
identify
had
with it
it since.
anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I feel like that disassociation was really powerful there. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. One thing for me is like I have a similar, not real, not kind of similar situation with eyesight where like I didn't need glasses until I was like 19 or 20.
Oh, wow.
And then it just started like going. And yeah, so anyway, so that's something I'm manifesting is like, I'm not like, it's not that bad. And it's like far, I'm like nearsighted. So like, it's like far. But anyway, so I went and got an eye exam like a few weeks ago, and one eye is a little bit better than like usually
Right,
like I would
right.
get exams every 2 or 3 years, and it would be a little bit worse, a little bit worse, a little bit worse. So the last time I got it, one eye stayed the same, and the other one got a little bit better. So that was like a little bit of movement, which was
Right,
awesome.
right,
But
right, right, right.
yeah, my
Yeah,
eyes aren't that bad, but it's something that would be cool, but it's not, it's not like a
right.
dire situation. But one
So,
other thing with like health that I've manifested slash am like on the journey of is weight loss, and I've lost um, at least 30 pounds through
wow.
like obviously I take action, like I don't just sit on my couch and affirm, like I exercise and stuff like that. But my beliefs with it is like the the self-concept and the belief has to like back the action, because you hear of people trying all different types of diets, all different types of workouts where like they just can't lose the weight. So it's like you need to like have the two in tandem. And I
Right,
know
right,
like
right.
Do you know Candace from Awaken the God Self?
Yes, 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 yes,
Yeah,
yes.
she's awesome. Like she has a video where
Okay.
she talks about how she just visualized, and then like one day and she didn't do anything differently, and I'm like, amazing. I don't know. I like to move my body. I like to work out, but yeah. So 30 pounds is a pretty. I'm still like on the journey. There's obviously like there's always more that you could do, but yeah, I was
Right.
yeah did 30 pounds, which was pretty cool.
I think I definitely resonated with the eyesight thing, for sure. But congratulations on your weight loss journey as well, because
Thank
I
you.
know that's not an easy feat. Because I think your mindset really helps you to be consistent in all of that as well.
Totally.
So definitely that's awesome. Because the eyesight thing, like, because as you know, I use a mascot, for my,
Yeah.
like my page and everything. I think there was one dude who was always saying, take off those glasses. Kings don't wear glasses, and yeah, and because I was like, at first I kind of did it as a joke, and I was like, you know what, he's right, like, and because every time when I visualize like my ideal self and stuff, like I was
Yeah.
like, I don't visualize myself with a glass, and
Hmm.
with a pair of glasses, and I think when I realized it, like, I mean, it was too late for me to change my mascot. I was like, but still, uh, because of the work that goes into creating all those stuff,
Totally.
but I was like, okay, you know what? Like, imagine in your mind, however, like, make that, like, be aware of it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like, I mean, if I'm doing it for live and stuff, I have to wear my glasses, but like when I don't need it, I suddenly just take it off, and I just, go by my day basically. And
Yeah.
I feel like doing those kinds of things, where you feel like you don't need it, and you just kind of disassociate yourself with those identities, it really, really helps. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Something I'm working on. I'll have to play
Right,
with the
right, right.
identity thing a bit more. The
Right,
eyes
right,
thing.
right. I think, yeah, like for me, it really boiled down to, okay, you can see well without, like aid or anything like that. And, of course, like the traditional, like looking far distances, and just like walking in nature without any aid or something like that, that really helps. But of course, if you really need glasses, if you can't see anything, like, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. But yeah,
Yeah.
but, I think that's where I think placebos comes into play as well. Yeah, what has been your experience with placebos if you had any?
Well, I do this thing with my vitamins where like where I'm taking
Right,
my vitamins, I'll like say that they're making my hair so healthy, they're like making my skin like whereas like obviously vitamins do things, but like I'm just like believing in them so much, like this is helping me like get to my goal weight, like this is like making me feel really vibrant. Like I'll just like tell myself with the vitamins, so that's kind of like a placebo because I'm like making
right,
them
right,
like
right,
extra powerful or whatever.
right, right, right,
But
right, right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I can think of it, anything. Do you have an example?
No, like I think I was looking into water being a good placebo as well
Mm,
recently, like just setting the intentions with water and like okay, this is healing me and those kinds of things, and using water as a placebo because water is really abundant, and you can use it to your advantage there. So I was like definitely looking into that. And what you said too, like even if like a medicine has like in the description it says like okay, it does XYZ, you kind of like exaggerate it in your mind, and you just kind
totally.
of like reinforce it with like favorable thoughts there. I think that's
Yeah.
one great way to go about it. And yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So yeah, I think like with do you have any, like, do you know people who really like drastically changed their health or anything like that? Any stories, any wild stories that you have heard of?
Um, I don't know if I can think of any at the top of my head.
Right, right.
Um, no, I can't think of one right now.
Yeah, because I was just reading the first chapter of Becoming Supernatural, and that lady like kind of curing herself of like a lot of the things that she had, and
Yeah.
how it just started off with the thoughts and just the meditation that you just mentioned. I really found it very fascinating because I believe like she did not really go back to her doctors at one point.
Yeah.
It was this lady, I think, whose husband like jumped down or something, and and she really like and that kind of made me realize like how replaying the old story in your mind can how detrimental it can be.
Makes you
Like
sick.
knowing, yeah, 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 yeah,
It's
and I think
crazy.
knowing law of assumption and seeing those things like kind of just it really helps you to understand the concepts better. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I love those success stories on Joe Dispenza's channel because it's crazy stuff like people getting out of wheelchairs and blind people seeing and like cancer disappearing, like, and he has the brain scans for like a brain tumor, and it's like you can see it over time, like meditating, and there it just shrinks and then goes into nothing, and it's just, yeah, there's like crazy things like that, like incurable diseases being cured from
Right, right, right,
meditation.
right, right,
Yeah,
right.
and just
So
and not
yeah,
just sorry, not just meditating, but also like he talks about, the identity thing where like you don't identify with it anymore, because the thing with like disease and like, being ill, it's like any type of thing that you always get something out of it, right? Like you get the sympathy, or you resonate with somebody, or like you get to commiserate with somebody else, or whatever, like you get some sort of benefit from whatever that you're doing, because otherwise you wouldn't have it. So there's some sort of benefit to it that you're clinging to, that it's like you need to reframe it, and not identify with that anymore, like that's not who I am anymore, like change the way that you see yourself, along with you know the meditation, which really,
right, right, right. I think you brought up a really valid point there. Like one thing that just came up in my mind as you were talking was associating or bonding with individuals or a
yeah,
group of people
yeah,
based on unfavorable things.
yeah,
Like I'm really like these days I really wouldn't want to do that because that is not how you want to build relationships. That's not
yeah,
how you really want to, if you're going to build something with people, or if you want to, do something, like use positive things to kind of like, associate yourself with, like, yeah, definitely don't use unfavorable things or
mm-hmm.
things that doesn't serve you in the long run, because I
Yeah,
feel like a lot of people do that.
yeah,
And oh, we both have this in common, let's talk about it and stuff like that.
yeah.
But like, yeah, and I just want to, like, speaking of that, like, I just want to know your thoughts on like manifestation buddies. Like, what's your thought on that? Like, what's your take on that? I'm curious to know.
Yeah. I think it depends, because you're all obviously everyone's your mirror. So like it just depends on where you're at, where your state is at. So like if you're in lack and you're like, I need somebody to help me, but it's like you could just be reflecting your lack back at each other, and like it just, you just have to be careful with that, because if you're feeling like fulfilled, and you're like really you're on the same wavelength as somebody who's, you have an agreement to not tell the old story. If you have like an agreement where it's like, we're not going to perpetuate negativity or the old story, and we're only going to like visualize for each other, and like see the best in each other, and see the outcome for each other, like I feel like that's fine. But yeah, just being careful with like, you're gonna attract like a manifestation buddy if it's just like in a random group. You're gonna attract somebody like that is your mirror. So just be
Right.
careful of what you're I don't know, it
Right,
kind of just
right,
depends.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I've noticed this pattern, like just people describing the experiences to me where it's one of those situations where only like one person is kind of benefiting from that situation.
Right.
Like it's not a mutual thing, and it's always like it's like an echo chamber where they are
Yeah.
like, just kind of parroting but without any sort of progress on it. And yeah, so I just wanted to get your take on that because like I know sometimes like people tend to use that as a tool. So yeah, I just wanted to know your take on that. Okay, so
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, the timer is can you see the timer?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
saying we only have about 2 minutes.
yeah,
So yeah, so do you want to wrap it up?
sure.
Yeah, any final thoughts?
But just one thing on that is that like I've had that experience before where it's like they'll it'll just be like an excuse to like just go on and on about the old story, where it's like
Right, right,
that
right,
doesn't
right.
help. Like you just have to be careful with what you're doing in the communication,
Right,
obviously.
right, 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 right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, that's all I want to say about that. I don't know. Did we cover everything we wanted to cover?
Yeah, I think we did. We did. We
Okay.
did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for
Yeah.
doing this with me. It was super fun, and
Yeah,
that
it was
time
super
went by
fun. Yeah.
so fast.
It does, it does. That's why I asked you, like, like how long do we have? Like, just give me a ballpark of things
Yeah, I
because
thought that it
like
would.
yeah,
I don't know. Just it went by in like 2 seconds, so I really enjoyed it. It was really fun.
I really enjoyed it too. Yeah, we should probably do it again down the line,
Totally.
for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, but thank you for coming. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And
Thanks for
yeah,
asking
so
me.
guys, yeah, thank you for watching. Yeah, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to both our channels. So yeah, turn on the bell notification so that you guys will know when we upload a new video. And I'll leave the link to the description for Hillary's channel as well. So and her Instagram page as well. So yeah, be sure to check it out.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. All right then. Yeah. Take care. Yeah.
Okay. See you later.
Yeah. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, nice.